human beings, PowerGamer here. Censorship is such a stupid thing, especially when it comes to kids media. Like, why can so many TV shows not use the word kill, yet a video game can have this printed on the back of the case? Oh, right, it's because this is rated T.
Ratchet & Clank Going Commando, or Locked and Loaded as it's called in some countries. No idea why they decided to change that. The second game in Insomniac's new darling platformer series. I'll admit I don't know that much about the general reception of Ratchet & Clank games, at least compared to each other, but I knew that this game is pretty popular on its own, which isn't too surprising given how most video game series have a super popular second entry. I said most. Going Commando was actually approved only 5 months before the first game was even released, so they were pretty confident they were going to have a big hit on their hands, which isn't too surprising given Insomniac's previous success with Spyro, and luckily, they were right. They started designing the visual concept of the game in August 2002 while still working out some issues with the first game, so they had to get started on their next project before even finishing their current one. Ain't that a mood? According to Brian Hastings, Insomniac's vice president at the time, the first step in the game's design was to go bigger and add something crazy that would grab people's attention. And there were 3 things in particular that they settled on: RPG elements, space battles, and spherical planets. I can hear Nintendo getting ideas with that last one. They also tried to rework Ratchet's character a bit, since one of the main criticisms of the first game, like mine, was that he acted way too selfish and aggressive. So they tried to make him feel more capable while still caring about other people, such as Clank. The full development cycle took about 10 months, and the team doubled from 40 members to about 80. It is crazy looking back and seeing how much faster game development was at the time. The game was released on November 11th, 2003 in North America, and the rest of the world in the following month. Reception was even higher than that of the first game, which isn't too surprising since, again, video game sequel, though some aspects such as the difficulty and different gameplay styles were criticized. It sold only a little less than the first game, with around 3 million copies sold, as opposed to the first game being closer to 4 million, but was still a big hit.
I enjoyed the first Ratchet & Clank game, but it did have my fair share of issues that I'm hoping this one will address. Either way, I've been meaning to get back to the series for a while, so I'm really excited for this.
Our story begins with Ratchet & Clank being interviewed for a TV series called Behind the Hero, where they discuss the aftermath of Drex planes in the last game, but since then they haven't been doing much. Meanwhile, in the distant Bogon galaxy, a businessman sees this and teleports the duo to his galaxy. He introduces himself as Abercrombie Fizzwidget, which I assume is a play on this godforsaken place, founder of a giant megacorporation called Megacorp. He tells Ratchet & Clank that an experiment the company was working on, this cute little puffball, was stolen by a mysterious thief, so he wants them to get it back. He asks Clank to become the company's new accountant, while Ratchet is sent to a training facility to get himself back in shape. 2 weeks later, Ratchet sets out to find the thief and get the puffball back, with Clank rejoining him later. That's really about it. The story for this game is a lot more basic than it was in the last game, and I'm gonna be honest, it's not quite as good. Drek wasn't a super formidable threat, but he was at least amusing, and it was clear why we needed to stop him. Here, the game tries to throw a few more twists into the mix, when many of them are really obvious, so Ratchet and Clank just end up looking like idiots at points. But at least Ratchet's a lot less of an ass in this game, so that's nice, and he's got a new voice actor too. In the last game, he was voiced by Mikey Kelly, but from this point on in the series, he's voiced by James Arnold Taylor, and apparently Mikey knew he was gonna be recast, so he told James he should audition and put in a good word for him to the casting director. That's nice. Thankfully, the comedic writing for Going Commando is just as good as it was in the first game. This thing is filled with bits and goofy moments that really made me laugh, so part of me wonders if the story was given less effort just so they could spend more time on the jokes. But they are good jokes, so I guess I can't complain too much. Though Fizzwidget constantly says the wrong words whenever he talks, and that honestly ended up being more confusing than funny.
I have some new inflammation on our experiment's wherewithal. Why, that's cutaneous! Absolutely munificent!
This game looks about as good as the last one did, and once again the soundtrack is solid, though not the most memorable, which is a little disappointing.
So the story is worse than it was in the first game, and the presentation is about equal. Why am I putting such an emphasis on this? Because literally everything else about it is better.
Once again, it's a 3D platformer with shooter elements giving you a vast assortment of guns and your wrench, but there are so many things that make this game an improvement. The controls are almost entirely the same, but now if you hold down the L2 button, you can strafe, which locks you into phasing one direction, making it so much easier to aim. And this alone completely changes the game since it makes aiming and shooting so much easier than before. It was very rare I wasn't holding this button down, since it is nearly essential in clearing out most of the enemies, and I could not possibly be more grateful for that. This honestly makes the game 6 times better than the first one was, and we're just getting started. The health system has also been reworked. Instead of just a set number of hit points, your health is now represented by these X's, and getting hit by the enemies will take a varying level from them, so the weaker enemies won't do as much damage as the stronger ones, which can make some segments much less annoying. I said some. You still have nanotech crates to restore your health, but ammo crates now respawn, meaning you won't lose as many bolts just restocking your weapons, which is fantastic. And speaking of which, the weapon selection in this game is even better than it was last time. The first game had some solid stuff, but this is on a whole other level. These things are extremely varied and extremely powerful, which makes makes using them extremely fun. They're not all bangers, but the good ones are really good. Starting out, we have the Lancer, which is a standard blaster, and the Gravity Bomb, which is a bomb that causes a big explosion. But then we also get the Chopper, which lets you throw these blades that bounce around between enemies. The Seeker Gun shoots rockets that home in on enemies. The Blitz Gun is a short-range shotgun that packs quite a punch. The Pulse Rifle is a glorified sniper rifle that can one-shot almost anything. The Mini Turret Glove deploys little turrets that fire automatically at enemies. The Lava Gun sprays a stream of lava, which is good for little enemies and nothing else. The Spider Glove lets you control a robotic spider that explodes, which is a little too situational. The Sheepinator turns enemies into harmless sheep, much like the Chickinator from the last game. The Plasma Coil shoots a shot of electricity that bounces between enemies. The Synthenoids are little robots that fly around and shoot anything nearby. The Mini Rocket Tube is a standard rocket launcher. The Shield Charger creates a shield that protects you from all attacks. The Hover Bomb Gun shoots bombs with a massive explode radius, and the Zodiac is way too expensive, so I never used it. But easily my favorite weapon in the game is the Bouncer. It shoots a big bomb that explodes into a bunch of little mines which bounce around and hurt just about any enemy nearby. This thing will absolutely wipe the floor with almost every enemy in the game, and if you use it properly, you're nearly unstoppable. Plus some weapons from the first game return, like the Bomb Glove, the Decoy Glove, the Walloper, the Visibomb Gun, the Tesla Claw, and the Rhino. And if you have a save file from the first game on your memory card, you get all of them except the Rhino for free. Granted, I only used the Tesla Claw, but it's still cool that some of the weapons come back and you're rewarded for playing the first game.
The weapon selection is easily one of the best things about Going Commando. By default, most of them are awesome, and they only get better with time, since you can actually upgrade them in this game.
The more enemies you kill with each weapon, the more this meter fills up, and once it's full, the weapon will level up, making it much more powerful. The Lancer becomes the Heavy Lancer, the Gravity Bomb becomes the Mini Nuke, the Blitz Gun becomes the Blitz Cannon, the Pulse Rifle becomes the Vaporizer, the Bouncer becomes the Heavy Bouncer, etc. Some of these things can make a weapon 10 times better than it already was, which is freaking awesome. This is a great mechanic, since it rewards you for using a certain weapon, and encourages you to experiment more, since if you don't like a weapon as much, upgrading it might make you enjoy it more, and even if you keep dying, you're still making some sort of progress since your weapon is slowly getting stronger. The downside is that some weapons take an absurd amount of time in order to level up. It took me like half the game to upgrade the Seeker Gun, but overall I think this is a great addition. And killing any enemy will allow you to increase your maximum health, which is so much better than the few set health increases you got in the first game. And we also have some gadgets. For equipables, we have the Helipack and Thruster Pack returning, and there's no need to switch between the two, so just pick which one you like. The Grind Boots come back, but now we have the Gravity Boots, which let you walk up certain walls, and the Charge Boots, which let you rocket forward to move faster. But the main gadgets are, of course, the ones you actually hold. There's the returning Swing Shot, the Dynamo, which creates platforms that quickly disappear, the Tractor Beam, which can move certain objects, the Therminator, which can freeze water and melt ice, letting you progress, and the Hypnomatic, which lets you take control over certain robots. Much like the first game, these all have to be equipped individually, which once again can lead to a lot of pausing, which I am not a fan of. Though you can switch back to whatever weapon you just had by double tapping the R1 button, which I rarely forgot about. Thankfully, some gadgets are context sensitive. There's two travel gadgets that can only be activated by using these platforms, that being the Glider, which is a hang glider, and the Levitator, which lets you fly for a brief period, and the two gadgets that open doors by doing some sort of minigame. The Electrolyzer, which has you flip these switches when a charge comes near them, and the Infiltrator, which has you guide a laser along certain paths until you loop back to the starting point. Gonna be honest, no idea how this one really works. I just messed around until I got lucky. And the other one, you just gotta scan your eyes across the center of the screen until one of the sparks changes paths.
There's tons of cool stuff you can get in this game, and there's plenty of ways you can get bolts, which, trust me, you are going to need a lot of.
Bolts are absolutely everywhere in this game. You are showered in them from crates and enemies, plus there's a lot of ways you can get extras, like replaying minigames or going through these battle arenas that send swarms of enemies at you. But the game is fully aware of this since the weapons are significantly more expensive than they were last time. The last game's ultimate weapon cost 150,000 bolts. This one's costs 1.5 million. Christ. We also have a lot more paywalls that help progression, and again, they are a lot more expensive than they were before. Now, I did always have enough, but this meant I had to do a lot more extra stuff in order to buy all the weapons, Zodiac excluded. Of course, mid-2000s platformers can't just be platforming, we have a bunch of side modes as well. There's quite a few vehicle sections, like the glider I mentioned earlier, jet bike races, which are basically the same as the hoverboard from the last game, only with less tricking and more shooting, and a handful of planets have you flying around in a spaceship shooting down bad guys. You turn, you boost, you shoot lasers and missiles, and that's about it. Not a bad idea, but enemies come at you from all over the place, and you have to kill just about all of them in order to win. Plus, if you die, you start all over again. This game is overall more generous with checkpoints than the last one, but these sections kinda go against that. We also have the Clank sections, which have not been changed. You either command some tiny robots to attack, go indoors, or do other menial tasks like becoming a bridge, or grow giant lean into a kaiju battle. This happens more often than in the last game, and it's a lot more annoying because, Jesus, you get swarmed. The structure of the planets is basically the same. You complete tasks by fighting enemies to reach whatever these question marks are. This game has a few more boss fights than the last one did, which really only had two, Quark and Drek. Some of them are short and sweet, others are longer than a marathon. Finally, we have Platinum bolts, which are hidden in each level, much like the gold bolts from the last game. Only these actually serve more of a purpose in your first playthrough, since they can be used to modify some of your weapons, giving them things like homing shots or an acid effect. I was only able to find enough for one, so I gave the bouncer the acid mod, which chips away at enemies it hits but doesn't kill. And you can also buy these armor upgrades, but again, they're expensive.
I think that's about everything, so now it's story/level time.
Ratchet's first stop is Aranos, which is just a tutorial stage. You blast some enemies as ship and nothing else. Ratchet finds the experiment, but the person who stole it shows up and takes it away. After finding some more enemies, Ratchet escapes and the thief hires some thugs for bodyguards. Fizzwidget shows Ratchet security footage of the thief stealing a map, so we head to our first proper planet, Uzla, a murky swamp area with nothing super distinct aside from our first mini-boss, these two giant branches you need to shoot. Get the dynamo and discover the thief is at the Mactar Resort, which is holding a gladiator tournament. We also find this guy who gives us the tractor beam. Meanwhile, Clank gets captured by this thing. Go to Mactar Resort, and along the way, we're attacked, leading to our first spaceship battle, which isn't awful, but it isn't great. Reach the planet, fend off enemies, and use the tractor beam to move things or launch them out of these slingshots, which is pretty fun. We have to fly up to this jamming army and sabotage it by destroying these pillars, which takes way longer than it should, since the moon is kinda big, and if you die, you gotta start all over again. Once you do, find out the thief is in contact with the thugs, who are members of a hoverbike gang, so we need to enter a race on another planet. Head back to the surface and reach the gladiator arena, where Ratchet is unwillingly thrown into a match. Kill the enemies, and you're rewarded with the electrolyzer. You can also participate in more fights for extra bolts, but I wouldn't recommend doing that until later. Ratchet sees a message from the thief revealing they kidnapped Clank, so we need to save him. Head to Endako, which is a city planet, and use the electrolyzer to open doors and operate these cranes. We save Clank and then take control of him to go through this vent and escape. The dynamic duo is back together. Yay! We have a fight against the thugs leader, who just shoots you in a helicopter, so he's not that hard. Get the swing shot and grind boots back, and now we can go to the desert planet Barlow. If you battle some enemies, you can find the shop that sells the weapons from the first game, and if you hover over here, you can enter the hoverbike race. Just boost as much as possible while trying not to crash into anything.
You can borrow my bluebell, so long as you're gentle.
If you get first place, you're given a helmet and find out where the thug's rendezvous point is. And going through some water gives you the Terminator. Go to the Felsen system, which is another space battle, and this one has way more ships than necessary. Ratchet and Clank intercept a call between the thief and the thug leader, letting them track their location. We also see a Behind the Hero episode mocking Captain Quark from the last game by talking about him investing in a faulty butt cleaner, just when I thought he couldn't get any more pathetic. Reach the planet Notok, which looks exactly the same as the Mactar Resort, only with much stronger enemies, so be ready. You can grab a nanotech boost, which increases your health, go through this harbor to learn about a ship modifier named Slim Cognito, clever, and use the Terminator to go through the sewers, which have sharks in them.
I thought I told kids to stop flushing these things down the toilet.
We find these little robots who just sold something to the thief, and they charge us to see the transmission they got in return. It's just the experiment breaking stuff, but at least we have the thief's location now. If you stop by Slim Ship Shack, you can upgrade the spaceship using raritanium you find at random, so I didn't get most of these. For something that's actually helpful, go to Siberius, a snow planet that really swarms you with enemies. Halfway through, you hop on a train and chase down the thief while dealing with anything around you. In the end, you find the experiment strapped to a rocket, and the thief goes on about anti-capitalism or something. They fly around on a hoverboard shooting lasers and bombs at you, so just lock on and fire away. We save the experiment, but the thief escapes. Fizzwidget tells Ratchet and Clank to meet him at Megacorp's mining facility on the desert planet Tabora. He crushes their ship with his and offers them a ride before ejecting them and flying off with the experiment. So yeah, he's clearly the real villain of the game, but Ratchet thinks this was an accident and they should still trust him. See, this is what I was talking about earlier. This just makes Ratchet look like an idiot. You gotta fight your way through this lava cave to reach the surface, find a wrench upgrade, which is nice, and reunite with the thief who loses their mask, revealing themselves to be a female Lombax named Angela Cross. She shows them a video about the Megacorp testing facility and leaves. But the ship is still busted, so this hippie guy says we need crystals to fix it. The desert area of the planet is enormous, and you have to smash these rocks or kill these giant enemies to get 10 purple crystals to fix the ship. But there's actually 100 purple crystals, and collecting them all gives you a stupid amount of bolts, which I wouldn't recommend doing until later. You can also go down here and get the glider, something I initially forgot to do. Oops. We watched another Quark documentary revealing he was arrested, but escaped, and arrive on the planet Dabo. The whole planet is a factory, so there's a lot of moving parts and platforming sequences. Find this guy who talks in math puns for some reason, and Clank grows giant, letting us fly to the moon. Our first kaiju section is you punch this guy while being swarmed by helicopters, which is really annoying since you're such a big target and movement is pretty stiff. Beating him lets us enter the Megacorp games. Use this teleporter to enter the facility and evade all sorts of security traps to find this computer, but it's busted. Follow the maintenance bot with the glider, only to have to fix it yourself, and then pay a fee to watch the security footage. Do you think that was enough steps? We find out that the experiment is extremely dangerous as it grows bigger and more vicious the more it's provoked. The computer says Ratchet and Clank were the first people to watch the recording, so Fizzwidget must not know. They call to give him a warning, and he says to meet at his disposal facility, but they need a password to enter.
Yeah, I sure trust the password that was given to me by the guy who abandoned me in the desert and speaks in bastardized English.
Next planet is Joba, and the thugs get a call from a new client offering to pay double. I wonder who it could possibly be. Enter another hoverbike race, which requires power-ups that let you shoot people, and winning gives you the charge boots. Now I'd recommend finding the purple crystals, since buying the bouncer is so worth it. Go through the rest of Joba, which has enemies that use turrets, and this extremely annoying part where you ride a moving platform while jumping around stuff that ejects from the wall. Find this guy who sells you the levitator and use it to reach the arena and enter the Megacorp games. This is just another enemy gauntlet, and you have to win 2 rounds to get both the gravity boots and the infiltrator. And once again, you can battle more enemies for extra bolts but I didn't do all of these because one requires you to not take damage, and the last one goes on for eons, and I have better things to do with my time, like croquet. Now we go to the Hurugis Cloud, and oh, would you look at that, the password didn't work, and now we're under attack. It's another space battle where you destroy these giant saucers. Fizzwidget then shows them a commercial for his weapon facility, so I guess we're going there now. Reach Tadano, which looks just like Joba, only with a robot tour guide, and an absurd amount of enemies that do massive damage. The further this game goes, the more grateful I am for the health increases. Go through this tower, and you get a message from Angela, who reveals the thugs have taken over her base. The experiment is called the Proto-Pet, which is being advertised as, well, a hot new pet, and she's been trying to stop them this whole time. But they still don't realize Fizzwidget is the bad guy, so they try to catch him on Bolden. But not before moving some pillars to get the Sheepinator. On Bolden, you fly through this underground vent area to open a door, use the grind boots for the first time all game, and fend off waves of absurdly strong enemies. Thank God for the upgraded bouncer. Ratchet and Clank seemingly find Fizzwidget, only for it to be a robot, and the thugs show up and arrest them. They're taken to their prison on Aranos, where they divide and conquer to escape. The Clank sections are really annoying since there's lava everywhere and no checkpoints, but at least Ratchet gets another wrench upgrade. The two reunite to fly through two different lava hallways. Why does a ship prison even have lava? One gives you a transmission revealing Angela is in trouble, with Ratchet seeming very protective, and the other lets you buy this Quark figurine, which does absolutely nothing.
Seriously, I have no idea what this thing is for, aside from wasting 20,000 bolts. Maybe there's a side quest I missed out on, but as far as I can tell, this thing is about as useful as a college degree in philosophy.
Hop in your ship and fly to Gorn, which is the final space battle. You need to destroy these 4 big ships, and dear God, don't crash into them. It's much easier to do than you would think. Pick up transmission from the thugs to get their location for like that 7th time in this game, and go to their base on Snivelac, which is without a doubt the worst planet of the game. You have to run through the city area that is filled to the brim with enemies that come out of nowhere, do massive damage, and are nearly impossible to hit consistently, like these tanks and helicopters. I spent like 40 minutes trying to get through this, and that's not even the end, because we then have to fight the thugs' leader in this giant robot, and good God, this thing takes forever. His attacks aren't that hard to avoid, it's just typical robot fodder, but he is a total HP sponge that barely takes any damage, and there's no way to easily refill your weapon ammo. So you gotta jump on the rooftops and use these turrets to scratch him, while also taking out these things and getting out before he destroys it, which will happen after a certain amount of time. Screw this whole planet, I was on it for an hour. When you finally take him out, you free Angela, who reveals a giant shipment of proto-pets we gotta take care of, and that she used to work for Megacorp. So they split up, with Angela going to get her old ID, and Ratchet and Clank taking care of the shipment. We go to Smolg, which also isn't very good. Yeah, the endgame of Going Commando kinda stinks, and the rest of it is better than Snivelac, but that's not saying much. Oh yeah, there's another Quark video about how he's been missing for weeks, who really cares. Smolg has you explore a warehouse filled with snappy guys to get a balloon message from Angela asking to meet up on her own planet. We also find a piece of the Hypnomatic, and do this really annoying flying sequence to discover a nearby planet is under attack from protopets. Head to the ice planet of Grelbin, which is another big open area with crystals, or moonstones, only this one has hydras and is filled with yetis that are by far the most annoying enemies in the game. So much so that apparently Insomniac has a Yeti trophy that they give to whichever developer puts the worst enemy in each of their respective games, which, okay, that is hilarious. Get 9 stones so the hippie will move the rock, go in the mineshaft to do some gliding to freeze this water opening the upper area, and then get 16 stones so we'll give you another piece of the Hypnomatic. We need this to explore the rest of the planet, but one piece is still missing. We can also collect more moonstones for cash, but I am not getting them all this time. Go to Damosel, which has another kaiju section with UFOs, and a main one that's nearly impossible to hit at the end, giving you the mapper, which reveals secret areas. Would have liked this a lot more earlier. Do some more grinding for the last Hypnomatic part, and take out all the protopets, which take ages until you find a puppet guy who will build the Hypnomatic for you. Back to Grelbin, where you use the Hypnomatic to sneak through here and find Angela. She gives you her ID, and we learn the original protopet is being used to manufacture the other one, so getting rid of it will shut down production. This leads to the last planet, Yeetle, a giant marathon that features a bunch of enemies and requires every gadget in the game, except for the tractor beam. They kind of forget about this, but thankfully it's super generous with checkpoints, so it's way less annoying than some of the other levels. Aside from this room, you use Hypnomatic robots to take out every single enemy without exploding. In the end, you're captured by Fizzwidget, who's revealed to actually be Captain Quark in disguise. Wow, I never would have guessed. He reveals that he took over Megacorp and organized the Protopet issue so he could save the new galaxy and regain his heroic status. He tries to pin this whole thing on the 3 heroes, but misuses Angela's Elixamore and turns the Protopet into a giant monster which eats him, so we gotta take it out. It rolls around, spits out many pets, and bounces. Just keep blasting it until it smashes through the floor a couple of times, and eventually it goes down. That was the final boss.
Don't you just love it when a game is constantly kicking you in the face and then the final boss is literally one of the most pathetic things you've ever seen in your life?
Angela finds the real Fizzwidget, who was locked in a supply closet this whole time. The pet spits Quark out. Clank realizes the Elixamore's battery was in backwards, so Angela fixes it, shrinks him down, and goes to broadcast the signal to the rest of the galaxy. The credits roll, we find out that this game is guilty of animal abuse. Ratchet and Clank talk with their new friends, and Quark gets castrated. We then unlock Challenge Mode, which is New Game Plus again. I'm good.
Game conquered. Going Commando is awesome. The story is pretty lousy, and there are some parts that are more frustrating than they need to be, but the vast majority of this game is a huge improvement over the first one. I wouldn't recommend this as your first title in the series, but if you played the first one, I definitely recommend trying this out. And hey, if the first one didn't fully grab you, maybe this one will. I really had a good time with this game, though part of that might be because I actually made some special preparations. Yes, believe it or not, I've been going Commando this whole time.